And here we go with the June weather outlook for OTT. Get the tie straight. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Well, folks, we've made it all the way into June, and this is the peak season for severe weather. It is really here, and it ramps up. We get plenty of storms in June. Matter of fact, the first 2 weeks of the month, oftentimes some of the heaviest weather as far as large hail and tornadoes becoming our biggest weather concerns. Now, the wettest June was almost 5 inches of moisture back in 1882. Back in 1890, it only a trace of precipitation, and the snowiest was in 1919 with almost a ½ an inch, but most years have no snow. The average monthly snowfall, combine all of them, is 1.7, but again, most of the time we don't see any. So our storm threats are all high in June. Lightning, hail, winds, straight line winds that is, and tornadoes. June is the peak of tornado season across eastern Colorado, so you really have to watch the skies. Keep it here on Denver 7 when conditions start to get severe, and they will a lot this year. It looks like we have a good chance of seeing a pretty stormy summer coming our way. The La Nina pattern has ended. El Nino, which is the warmer ocean waters, developing fast, and that tends to favor strong thunderstorms, severe storms, and we'll likely see a pretty good monsoon season, which mostly kicks in July and August. But the recovery from the drought does continue. We have some great news on that, courtesy of that very soggy May. So El Nino will supercharge that moisture coming in from the southwest over the course of the summer season. And not so much in June, which is not our peak monsoon season, but next month and on into August, we'll see a lot of that. Here's that drought monitor, and boy, is this good news. The extreme drought is out of Colorado. It does continue across the Central Plains, Kansas, up into Nebraska, down in Oklahoma and northwest Texas, but Colorado is in so much better shape, and that is because of all the wet weather we had during May, especially along with the very wet winter that we had. Join CoCoRaHS, the community collaborative rain, hail, and snow study. You can become a CoCoRaHS volunteer. Join over 20,000 weather volunteers worldwide. You get a rain gauge and a hail pad that allows you to tell the size of the hail that comes down. Learn how to measure all of these weather components. And if you want more information, it's easy. Just go to www.cocorahs.org and go cuckoo for CoCoRaHS. All right, so here's our outlook. Wetter than average across northeast Colorado, northern Colorado, Wyoming, the high plains, kind of in between next 30 days as far as temperatures. And then looking longer ahead, I think we're going to get some hot weather coming into July before that monsoon season begins to kick in as we get closer into August. But right now, the official forecast is wetter to the east. I'm thinking we're going to actually have a fairly wet conditions coming out around here. Let's talk about that climate change connection. So much of what we're seeing in the weather is related to a warmer world, extreme precipitation and flooding events, also heat waves and droughts, the shrinking of the ice caps and the glaciers, and the record-setting wildfires, all related to the increase in carbon dioxide. When I show the number on TV, I'm taking the global average, which takes into account the readings at Barrow and Mauna Loa, American Samoa, and the South Pole. It does jump up and down a little bit because as the plants breathe in during the growing season some of that CO2, it'll drop in the northern hemisphere, and then of course in the growing season do the same thing in the southern hemisphere. So by taking the global average, you can see that rise on a consistent basis, going up by 100 million tons of carbon dioxide every single day from the burning of fossil fuels. We've seen the result with some of the hottest years on record, all occurring since 2010, despite the fact the last 3 years we've been in a La Nina, which tend to somewhat keep some of that heat in the oceans. And we can see, looking at the graphs since the beginning of the industrial era, we have seen more than a century of warmer than average global temperatures, and we're seeing Denver's weather heating up as well. Matter of fact, without significant cuts in carbon, this warming is going to change our future quite a bit, and we'll see weather by 2060 in Denver more like that right now of Amarillo, Texas, and by 2100 more like that of northern Mexico. Think about that as far as hot weather in the summertime. And we're seeing that warming in the summer mostly along and west of the Mississippi River, although there is also warming Great Lakes and across the east. Warmer summer nights. A lot of people used to say don't need air conditioning in the Denver area. That has certainly changed for the most part, and the increase in cooling demand since 1970. And this is, of course, from our friends at Climate Central, showing the increase in people wanting to have air conditioning. Fire weather also changing. The number of hot, windy, and dry days. This is a brand new graph that shows from 1973 to 2022. We can see the number of increasingly hot days, especially over the western part of the United States. We saw this in May, especially northern Great Plains and up into Canada, those fine smoke particles, and likely we'll see some of that again as we get deeper into the fire season. The average global temperatures increased by about 2.5 degrees Fahrenheit in the last 70 years, and that is, of course, due to the increase in carbon dioxide. When you look at the individual generations, everybody that's younger than me has always been born in a warmer world, and we're seeing that baseline changing as the carbon pollution continues. So we can still fix this if we continue to make dramatic cuts in CO2 pollution. And remember that carbon acts like a feather in a down comforter, trapping heat that would otherwise escape into outer space. If you want to learn more, I'll step out of the way. This is our book on climate change, the world's littlest book on climate. That is the QR code that you can scan for a free download. 10 facts in 10 minutes about carbon dioxide and our warming world. Have a great month of June. Thanks for listening.